I've realized that there's the version of me that I imagine. She is calm, consistent, and makes choices that I am proud of. And then there's a version of me that actually shows up. She is distracted, sometimes unmotivated, and just not living the way that I want to. So what I've been working on is closing that gap. Not to become some idealized version of myself, but to become someone I actually like being. Today, I want to share the shifts that have helped me get closer to that version, things that you can try too. Point 1 is to keep small promises to yourself. One of the fastest ways I've noticed myself feeling better about who I am is by keeping these small promises that I make to myself. And it doesn't need to be anything big. It can literally be as small as drinking a glass of water before I have my morning cup of tea, or just finishing one task that I said I would do. When I follow through, even if it is something that is so tiny, it creates this quiet sense of trust within myself. It's like I am proving that my own word actually means something. And the more often I do that, the more I start to think I can actually rely on myself. So start with something really, really small. Pick 1 or 2 commitments that you know you can stick to. Over time, these will add up and you start to see yourself differently. Not because you made a huge change, but because you built consistency. Point number 2 is to redefine what better means. For the longest time, I thought the better version of me was completely flawless. She had the most amazing morning routine, she had endless motivation and a neatly checked off to-do list every single day. But the more I focused on that, the more frustrated I actually got. So now I see it completely differently. The best version of myself isn't perfect at all, but it's the one whose actions actually line up with my values, the one who's reliable with herself and doesn't constantly break her own trust. A really good exercise is to actually write down 3 qualities that I admire in other people. And then I'll ask myself, how can I live out one of those qualities today in my own way? For example, if I admire reliability, then maybe I will respond to that text that I have been avoiding all day. And if I admire discipline, maybe I will get that task finished instead of leaving it half done. And that is how the better version of myself becomes less of a fantasy and more of just something that I practice daily. Point 3 is to do things just for you. Another shift has been letting myself do things purely because they make me feel good, not because they are productive, impressive, or useful to anybody else. So this could just be reading a book that I really enjoy, or cooking something that takes way longer than it actually should, or going for a walk with no destination at all. And when I add in things like that, I actually stop feeling like a machine who is just constantly chasing goals, and I start to feel like someone who actually enjoys her own life. So each week I actually make sure that there is something in my calendar that is just for me, and it literally doesn't need to look exciting from the outside, but it's those little pockets of enjoyment that actually make a difference in how much I actually like being myself. And point number 4 is to reflect without judgment. So when you are trying to improve yourself and improve your life, it is so easy to get stuck in this cycle of being really harsh on yourself. But judgment usually makes you feel way worse, and it actually means it is unlikely that you are going to change. Reflection, on the other hand, gives you a way forward. So at the end of every week, I ask myself these 3 questions. What did I do this week that I am proud of? What drained me this week? And what's one small thing that I could adjust for next week? So it's not about beating myself up for anything that I did or didn't do. It is just about noticing patterns. Maybe I noticed that I actually always feel better on days that I go for a walk. Or maybe I noticed that when I stay up really late at night, I have a really terrible morning the next day. So that awareness just means that I can adjust. And slowly, I become someone who makes choices I am happier with. So if you want to become a version of yourself that you actually like, start slow. Keep the promises you make to yourself, even the tiny ones. Redefine what better really means for you. Add in things that bring you joy just for the sake of it. And reflect on how you're doing without tearing yourself down. You really don't have to try and reinvent yourself overnight. Liking yourself comes from these really small, consistent shifts that build over time. And the more you practice them, the closer you get to being the version of you that you are genuinely happy to live as. Please do leave me a comment if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and please subscribe if you want more content on living well for less.